This is a true story that happened to me many years ago. I am now a retired minibus driver in Hong Kong, but at the time of this incident, I was in my early 30s, about 2 years into my bus driving career. I am now currently in my 60s, but I still think back to this experience as if it happened yesterday. I never really truly believed in the supernatural, or ghosts, or anything like that, but this incident really shook me to my core, and it made me question everything I believed in. Back then, I used to work the night shift on a specific route. I would run the same route every night, multiple times, so I knew it like the back of my hand. Most of the customers on this route were regulars, so I could recognize most of them, as they usually take the bus with me either daily or every few days. There was one passenger in particular that I remember well. A man in his 30s or 40s at the time that would always take my bus almost every single night, sometimes with his girlfriend. We never spoke to each other, but since I saw him so often, I consider him one of my regular customers. The most we said to each other was just a simple hello when he boards the bus, or maybe even a simple nod of acknowledgement. He would get on at the same bus stop at the same time every single night. Then there was a period of time where he disappeared for a while and no longer took the bus. At first, I didn't think much of this, figuring he probably moved or changed jobs to more regular hours or something. Then one night, I see him again, waiting for the bus, at the same exact bus stop he usually waits at the same time. It was just him tonight, no girlfriend with him. I pulled the bus up to the bus stop to let him on as usual. He got on the bus slowly and sat at the seat right by the doors. His face looked somber. He said, "Driver, I want to pay for 2 riders." Back then, you pay for the ride as you deboard the bus, not when you get on. So it was very strange that he wanted to pay for the ride prior to deboarding. I was more confused as to why he was paying 2 fares, so I asked him, "Hey, do we have to wait for your friend today?" Meaning his girlfriend. He responded, "No need to do that, thank you. You can just go ahead and drive." I found this very strange, but hey, if he's offering to pay extra voluntarily, I'm not going to argue with that, so I drove off. He got off at his usual destination, and that was that. The following night, I pick him up again, and the same thing happened. He got on slowly, paid the fare for 2 people again, even though it was only himself, and sat in his usual seat, right by the doors. I kept to myself, and so did he, so I didn't ask much of it. He continued to do this for the next few nights in a row, paying for 2 fares, and sat by himself in a chair with an empty seat next to him. One night, as this was happening again, another customer happened to hop on the bus after him from the same stop. The bus was pretty full tonight, and there weren't much available seats left. The new passenger saw the empty seat next to the regular customer and tried to sit down. My regular customer saw this and said, "Sorry sir, but I already paid for this seat." This new passenger looked at him confused, and then he looked at me and said, "Hey driver, the seat is empty. What's going on here? Can I sit there? All of these other seats are full, and I'm in a rush." I told him, "I'm sorry sir, but he did pay for the fare for 2 people. This is when the new passenger started getting angry and irritated, and he started yelling, saying things like, "Come on man, you can't just do that because you paid for the seat. Doesn't mean you can just keep it empty and stop other people from sitting in it. Some of us have places to be. Just let me sit there, it's not like you're using it anyway." The regular just sat there, thinking to himself. He didn't say anything. He just sat there with no expression. Then he said something to himself, something like, "Let's just get off. It's okay, we can take the next one. Let's not start any trouble." I did hear him say a name too, but I could not fully make out what the name was, as he was speaking softly to himself. As he was getting off the bus, I felt pretty bad since he paid for the fare of 2 people, so I offered him the refund, but he refused it and said that's fine, and I drove off. About a week later, I pick up this regular customer again, and as expected, he paid the fare for 2 people, even though it was just himself. As we approached his stop, I saw a bunch of police cars and ambulances, so I slowed the bus down to pass through. There were no cell phones back then, so some of the passengers stuck their heads out the window to see what was going on. Apparently, some man was getting off the bus, and all of a sudden, he was struck by a taxi and killed on the spot as he was trying to cross the street. The scene was still fresh, and you can tell that the police and ambulance just arrived, because the guy that got hit, he was still laying on the ground. They didn't even get a chance to cover him up yet with a sheet. As I was slowly driving past, I saw the victim's face, and this was actually the passenger from last week, the one that threw a big fuss about not being able to sit in the empty seat. He was getting off the bus that ran the same route as mine, but he must have taken an earlier bus tonight. He got off at the stop, and as he was crossing the road to get to the other side, he was hit and killed instantly by a taxi. At first, I just thought, okay, traffic accident. Accidents happen. Let me continue on with my job and get these people to the stop so everyone can get home safely. I finally reached the bus stop and all the passengers started getting off. The regular customer stayed in his seat and was waiting for everyone else to get off first. He got off last. But as I looked up in the rearview mirror to look at him, I saw it. I very clearly saw a woman sitting in the seat next to him. I've never felt that raw fear that I felt at that moment. She was looking away from me, out the window, but I could clearly see her silhouette and her long black hair, but I could not see her face. I looked away out of fear as the regular customer was deboarding the bus. That night when I got home, I couldn't sleep at all. As I was laying in bed trying to fall asleep, I started getting chills and then heat flashes, and all I could think about was the image of the woman sitting there on my bus next to this passenger who always pays the fare for two. I told my mom about the incident, and she told me I most likely have seen something dirty, meaning a ghost. Being Hong Kong, ghosts are more than superstition. For our culture, it's more of a fact that they exist. After seeing what happened to the passenger that argued and fought over the seat, I was starting to become very uneasy, and I didn't want anything bad like that to happen to myself. Will I end up like that passenger that got hit by the taxi? My mom suggested I talk to the regular passenger the next time I see him to see what is going on, since he takes the bus regularly anyways. I saw the regular passenger 2 nights later, once again waiting for the bus. Same as always, he paid the fare for 2 people and sat in his usual seat. I didn't say anything until we got to a stop, and as he was getting ready to get off, I said, "Sorry sir, before you go, I just wanted to quickly talk to you. I'm sure you know my face by now since I've been picking you up for a while, but I've never really spoken to you." He responded, "Yes, what's the matter?" I continued, "Sir, I don't mean to pry, but do you have a friend that recently passed away?" He stared at me for a little bit and then said, "What? Why does that matter to you? I don't think that's any of your business." I responded, "I'm sorry, I don't mean to be nosy, but it's just that a few days ago, when the customer that was arguing with you over the empty seat, he was killed in an accident, and when I looked in the rearview mirror, I saw a woman sitting next to you. I'm just a regular guy. I'm working as a bus driver to make a living. I take care of both of my parents at home, and after seeing what I saw the other night, I'm just really scared, and I don't want anything bad to happen to me." The passenger stayed quiet for a little bit, and then just said, "Don't worry, we won't be taking the bus anymore soon. We're going to be leaving soon, when it's time. It's not time yet, but when it's time, we will leave." I'm not really sure what he meant by this, but all I got out of that conversation was that he said not to worry. After we had this conversation, the passenger didn't wait for my bus anymore, or so I thought. For about 2 to 3 months, I haven't seen him. I figured he didn't want to scare me anymore after our talk, and is probably taking another bus or maybe another time. Then one night, when things were finally getting back to normal for me, and I didn't really think much about him anymore, I just finished dropping off the last of my customers at the final stop, and I was taking the minibus back to headquarters. It happened again. The bus is empty now at this point. I parked the bus up for the night, and I'm getting ready to leave for my shift. As I'm getting off the bus, all of a sudden, I hear a man's voice in the back say, "Next stop, please." Shocked, as I'm 100% sure I dropped every last passenger off the final stop, I looked up, and there they were. I could see them as clear as day. It was the regular customer and his girlfriend next to him, sitting in their usual seat, staring back at me. I have never ran so fast in my life. As I was running away, I turned to look back at the bus one last time, and I could still see them from the outside of the bus, staring right back at me.